Hey everyone, welcome back to Williamson Ridge Outdoors. Today we are standing beside our 2023 Chevy Silverado 2500HD. We've got a little project we're going to do. I'm actually going to be installing some step bars on this. And this truck did not come with them from the factory, and they seemed to be too expensive to suit me from the dealer. We just couldn't come to an agreement on a price there. I'd really like to get some of the retractable, electric steps that will come down when you open the door and retract whenever you close the door. But they are just way out of my price range right now. So I decided to kind of go on the cheaper side of things by going to Amazon and checking out some step bar / running boards there. And what I ended up with was the APS iBoard in a flat black. Of course, my truck is trimmed in black, so I wanted to get the black to kind of match the rest of the truck. These are supposed to fit the 2019 through 2023 Chevy Silverado 2500HD and also the Chevy 1500, I believe, except for one model, so you'd have to check there to make sure it fits your vehicle, but it still fits a pretty wide range. They are basically a universal fit. But we're going to go ahead and jump in here and start installing these, see how easy it is, kind of give them a test and see if they're strong. They're supposed to hold, I believe, either 450 or 500 pounds, so that's pretty substantial weight, so they should feel really solid. But let's get right into the install, and I'll take you through step by step of how to do this, and I'll give you my thoughts, and I'll tell you the pricing and everything afterwards. So one thing about these, they came packaged pretty good, but they did have a little bit of damage on them. So you can see something has impacted the box right here and dented the running board in. And then also on the other one, they were packaged against each other, and the other board also has the same dent in it. But aside from that, they actually look really good. They're made out of aluminum, so they really shouldn't have any problem rusting, at least not the main board itself. The brackets are steel. They actually look like they're painted up and coated really well, but I don't know how durable this is going to be. The nuts and bolts, they actually are painted also, but it looks very thin on these, like that it might kind of wear through and may possibly start rusting in a short period of time. So if you want to take extra steps, you could go through this and maybe paint them and put your own coating on there or something, but I'm going to try them out and we're going to see how long they last straight from the factory. I mysteriously somehow misplaced the instructions. It did come with instructions of how to put us together and where all the bolts and nuts and everything goes. Somehow that mysteriously disappeared. So what I ended up doing is taking the parts bag and just separating everything into what would fit with each other. So, the nuts fit the smaller bolts, and then you've got a smaller hole in these washers that are meant for the smaller bolts. Then you have the larger 13mm bolts that have lock washers that fit and flat washers both that will fit those. So even without the directions, I think these are pretty straightforward and should be pretty easy to install. So the first thing we got to do here is pull out the plugs for our pre-drilled holes. And there's actually more holes than you actually need here. So you can kind of pick out the ones that are spaced accordingly, to fit your set of running boards. So the way we're going to get those out, just take us a small flat screwdriver, kind of work under the edge there a little bit. And then we can take a pair of needle nose pliers and just pop it out. So now we're going to take one of our 13mm bolts with a lock washer and a flat washer on it. We put it through our bracket, and we're just going to thread that bolt into place. So that's got our bracket hanging there, and we're going to take another one of our 13mm bolts and just put it in on the bottom side. So as you can see, That's going to pull up nice to the fitting here on the truck, or to the body work here on the truck. I'm not going to tighten these down just yet. I just want to kind of just get them finger tight, get them somewhat close, and then we're going to repeat that process 3 more times on this side of the truck. So once you've gone through and got all your brackets on, then you can kind of step out to the outside and look at your spacing. I wanted to get mine spaced to where I'm going to set my foot is about where the bracket's going to be at. So I've got one up here on the front, which is, you know, kind of is actually to the front set of holes. And then right here at the door, right around where you're stepping in, there's a bracket right here. And then I've got a second bracket just at the beginning of the back door. That way, again, it's kind of got, you know, dividing that space up pretty good. And then back here on the back bracket, you know, they're pretty well evenly spaced to where as you're stepping on, that the bracket should be taking up, you know, the load instead of your weight being on the middle of the board in places. At least that's kind of my thinking about it. You can adjust these, you know, based on the holes, the mounting holes that's on your truck. You've actually got a set of mounting holes that's like right here, just a few inches from this one. And there's another set that's close to that, and then another set back there close to the back one. But this looked like the most even and the best spacing that I could find. So now that we've got that, we've got to come over to our running board, and our little square head bolts, we're going to put 4 in each one of these channels and just kind of slide them in. So down here on the end, there's enough space to be able to slide them in. You can do it from either end, it doesn't matter. So now we've got our bolts in place here. We're going to have a flat washer and a nylock washer for each one of these bolts to mount to the hardware on the truck. All right, so now we're underneath the truck one more time, and we're just going to slide our bolts over to our bracket, lift up on the board, and just push it over and get it to drop down through the holes on our boards. So I've been in and out from under the vehicle a whole bunch of times here, and what I'm doing is trying to get a look from the outside, you know, what or where I wanted my running boards to be lined up at. And so what I ended up doing is kind of going about halfway from front to back. If you notice the door, the way that the gap is here on the door, I lined up the board pretty much with that front of the gap, and then ended up being pretty good on the back, actually with the gap on the back of the door. So when you step back and look at it, the board looks pretty well centered between like the front mud flap and this back step back here, and like everything looks pretty well proportional in the middle of the cab the way that I think that it should. So then on the brackets themselves, or putting the board on, I ended up bringing it out about halfway on that bracket, so it's not pushed back all the way and it's not pulled forward all the way. So I went about halfway in between, so it still gives me a good platform to be able to step on. Is if you push it all the way back, you tend to set your foot close, and then you're kind of kicking your truck as you're getting in. So I didn't want to have that issue going on and maybe scratching the paint if I've got mud on my feet or something like that. So I got everything adjusted there, and then I went ahead under there and tightened up my bolts on the bottom, and also tightened up my brackets that are holding the running boards. I do feel that these boards are pretty sturdy, and as you step on, they don't have a lot of flex. You can bounce on them. You can see that they might be moving a little bit, but I really can't even feel it myself. But I like the way that they feel when you step on them. They do feel nice and solid and secure. There's a good platform for your foot to step on, and you can just step in, and it makes it so much easier getting in and out of the truck. So I also wanted to get them adjusted for a passenger too, and like I say, and I was trying to get the brackets underneath adjusted to where that as you're stepping on, your weight is going right around those brackets. And that way, you know, you're not in the middle of the running board with your foot. And that kind of gives that sense of having even more support there. So I'll get you a few profile shots here. Like I say, I've got the board shifted right in the middle of front to back. And if you come over to the side, the board is pretty much in line with the body of the truck. It's very close. Also, the mud flap down here, then you're kind of tucked in behind it a little bit. So it kind of integrates in with the body of the truck. And also from the back, the bed step and your running board are almost in line with each other as far as how much they stick out. So it actually looks like, you know, that they're kind of meant to be that way. That's also one reason why I chose these APS iBoards, because this design in the cutout right here is kind of like the same design that's in the steps in the truck. So it actually makes them look like that they're designed to go together. So now I'm going to do the same thing over on the passenger side. It took probably about 30 minutes to do this, but this was the first time and the first side of trying to put these on. And then also I had no directions. So it kind of took me a few minutes to get everything and my thoughts of where everything goes and what bolts go where. But it's actually pretty self-explanatory because the bolts will only go in one place. So the larger 13mm bolts are the ones that fit the truck or go onto the brackets, and then the square head bolts are the ones that go inside the running board themselves. So there's the passenger side. That looks pretty doggone good. I think it actually resembles some of the factory boards. Well, that's going to wrap it up. These actually were really easy to install. It does take just a little bit of time going through and lining everything up, and you know, you got to take those little plastic plugs out for your bolt holes, but all your holes are there. There's no drilling required. This set of running boards actually seems to be very sturdy. They feel sturdy when you step on them. Now, I haven't seen them out from a distance or tried to look at the video, but I tried to get some different angles of the video so you could see me stepping on them and see, you know, how much they're flexing or whatever, but you can't feel that under your foot. They actually feel really solid, which is actually another reason why I went with these APS iBoards, because they have 4 brackets on them, or 4 mounting brackets, and I thought that that would be quite a bit sturdier than only having 3, because I've seen several different sets actually only have 3 mounting points, and I was like, well, surely that, you know, having 4 should make it feel a lot more sturdy. I weigh right about 220 pounds, which is just about half of what these are rated at 500 pounds per side. So with that, having the 4 brackets, I feel pretty confident that they actually could handle that much weight, especially considering whenever I step on them, I can't feel any give or movement to them. Also, one thing that led me to go with these, aside from the fact that they kind of, you know, they don't stick out real far and they kind of tuck up under the truck, and there's not big gaps or anything like between the body of the truck and the board. Plus they have this backing plate back here that kind of fills in that gap and kind of integrates it into the look of the truck. But they're a one-piece running board. So there's no caps, no plastic caps on it. There's no plastic foot treads or anything like that. So they're a solid piece of aircraft grade aluminum, I believe is what they say that it is. I did see a couple reviews where, you know, some people said they were slick. With dry feet and dry weather, I have no problem with them, but they do have texture to them. But I don't know how grippy this will be, you know, in wet weather or say even snow. And then it may be grippy this way, but then let your foot slide this way. And also something else I really liked about them was the cost. So at my dealer, you know, we were talking about $600 to $700 for a set of running boards for it, and they were not the power folding running boards or anything like that, just a standard set of, you know, GM factory installed running boards. And I did mention, I said, well, what about aftermarket? You know, and they said, well, we got a place down the road that, you know, a lot of times people will go down there, and that was like a DZ or somewhere like that, and they were still going to be around $500. These boards were $220, I believe, you know, free shipping right to your door. So, and then you just, the time that you have putting them on yourself, which, you know, could be under an hour probably without much problem. So to me, it was very well worth saving that much money. So my final thoughts on this is actually, these boards are a really good product for the money. And I say that in the short term right now because I just put them on and have no clue how long this coating is going to last or how long they'll hold their collar, whether they'll fade out in just a short amount of time, whether salt from the roads and stuff will, you know, really destroy the hardware or make them start rusting prematurely. I do live in an area where we get snowstorms, ice storms, and you know, that happens pretty regular here in southern Ohio. And only time will tell how long these will last, but definitely for the short term, I'm very happy with the purchase and how much easier it has made it to get in and out of this truck. So if you like these running boards, I will leave an Amazon affiliate link down in the description below. I am very happy with the purchase of this. We'll just have to see how long they actually last and how well they hold up over time. So if you enjoyed today's video, appreciate you hitting that thumbs up button. It really goes a long ways in helping out the channel, and we'll see you next time.